Hello, my name is Laura Gustafson. I am a Norton resident. I've been a Norton resident now for close to 11 years. I am also a mother and a local school teacher. I am here today to have a conversation with Mr. Oren Sigal. He is one of our select board candidates that will be running during the election, which happens this Saturday, April 27th, at the Norton Middle School between 8 and 5 p.m. I'm excited to have this conversation because Oren did request that there be a debate to happen between himself and the other two candidates. However, there was no response from the other two candidates. So this is an excellent opportunity for you to get to know Oren. Oren, thank you so much for taking the time to meet with me today.
Thank you for having this. I appreciate it.
Oh, great. All right, so let's get started. So my very first question to you is, if you could just tell us a little bit more about yourself and why you chose to run for Select Board.
Okay. I've lived in Norton for 18 years. As part of the work I did with my local community, I started getting involved with some of the actions they were involved with dealing with their abutters. And as that, I got familiar with some of the variety of the town commissions and boards, the Select Board, the Planning Board, the ZBA, the Conservation Commission. And as a result of that, I sort of looked at the position of a Planning Board. And basically, it matched very well with my background. I've basically been a commercial real estate attorney for most of my life. I've represented developers, businesses. The developers were industrial developers, commercial developers, retail developers, and I was vice president. I was vice president of a retail chain where I was senior counsel to their real estate development. In addition to which, I was general counsel to a small New England college. So I think those things really underscored working on the planning board, but more or less had me look at this position as the select board. I came a little bit late to the game in terms of when I actually pulled papers, having seen the other two candidates, both of whom were really nice gentlemen. But I noticed, basically they're both owners of businesses in the town and lifelong residents of the town. And I just thought in a five-person board, you needed some diversity in terms of representation and participation. And I thought I would bring something very different to the board than two candidates basically with the same background. The final point for me was when I started looking into that process, I started watching some of the select board meetings. And at one of them where the issue started to come out with the budget, the question came up of trying to push an override vote really early, actually this coming Saturday. And even at this date, we don't appear to have any real budget. And the question came up when people asked to put it over to be able to disseminate information, people were calling it political. And that was a political campaign to really defer that decision. And that's what really threw me. I don't see this as being a political position. I don't want it to be. I think this town can be a cohesive unit without trying to divide it politically. And that's one of the reasons why I decided to run.
Well, that's excellent. So based on what you've just sort of shared with us, what do you feel as a candidate you could bring to the select board that would be diverse in comparison to what we currently have? Well,
just to give you an idea of when I was on the planning board, one of there are like three different things that really stood out to me that I took concern about. One was again, I work with developers all the time, but sitting on a board and trying to sit there when you have individual residents trying to come up against a developer who has time, money, and expertise. It's sort of like it was without really any backup to give them the opportunity to know how to approach the problem or giving them any help in the problem. Just seemed wrong to me. And so what happened is I found they weren't getting all the information from the developer. I don't think the town provided really all the information they needed. And so in many cases, I sought out information myself to give it to them. And I think that's one of the concerns I have of making the process for the residents a little bit more user-friendly in terms of help from the town. On the other hand, I found these developers as well as the residents frustrated in terms of the time it took to get things done. And part of that was basically bouncing between the different boards without much coordination and cooperation. And so they were getting, the developers were, time is their money, and they were getting really frustrated with it. And for the unit owners, they really weren't getting answers. They didn't know how to address it. So one of the concerns that I want to see addressed is giving, again, the information that people need to be able to work through that process and maybe streamlining it. And then lastly was the frustration I saw the town had in trying raising funds. And as a result of that, what I saw over a 4-year period, they literally had 5 zoning amendments. And they weren't normal zoning amendments. These were amendments to basically benefit one particular developer. So someone would come and say, I need this, and all of a sudden, we were modifying our zoning bylaws 5 different times in 4 years, just to accommodate that. And it was basically to raise funds because we needed it. And there has to be something wrong with that. And in fact, on one of the occasions when there's a zoning amendment, I said, if you guys need it, if you need an override, do it, but don't keep on selling the town. And so it was that concept that was bothering me. And so that's one of the things that I want to bring to the town in terms of where they are in terms of getting that information out and getting people to understand what they really need, as opposed to just going on with, well, we got to sell off something else so we can raise a little bit more money.
Well, that actually leads into a good point and a thought that just crossed my mind. So my next question was going to be discussions about our current budget crisis and how you felt in terms of passing an override. But additionally, what you just stated made me think about there has been a lot of discussion about transparency and lack thereof. There are many residents of the town that have a feeling of mistrust due to, they feel like that the different departments are not necessarily being the most transparent in terms of their spending and how the money is being allocated and utilized. So how do you feel about the idea of moving along with an override, and how can this information that you are discussing here maybe offer up some of that transparency that the residents are looking for?
I look at it as we've been doing the same pony ride for ever since I've been here, 18 years. Every year we come up with it, and there's the draconian measures get put on the table every single time, but there's no information that follows that. And what happens is people just say, okay, you've done it before, you've did it 18 years in a row, why do you need it now? And so a quick fix, there's no quick fix. The quick fix is really a full informational campaign. That people want to know, we survived last year, why are we now this much in arrears now? What happened? And there may be reasons for it. I mean, I've been starting to review some of the Finance Committee meetings. God save us, I mean, they're 3 hours long, and not many people have the opportunity to do that. So without being able to sit and watch those committee meetings, that information has to be brought out and given to people so they understand why that happened. It may be estate funding, it may be because of COVID and lack of funds. Whatever it is, there may be a reason for it, but without that, people are just saying, well, you did it before, what are you hiding? Where are the other funds in town? What's happening with them? And I think, I know it's going to come up again at the town meeting, and they're working on 3 different budgets, but as I was watching the FinCom meeting last night, and they were on the first budget, and even then they weren't together, they were going back. So the town needs to be able to, I think, go through this process a lot earlier, and more importantly, they need to be able to communicate to the community why they're doing what and what's being cut. I still don't know, and again, I've been watching it, and I couldn't tell over the 3 budgets they're talking about what gets cut under each of these budgets and what impact that has. Nor do I know the cumulative impact of over the last, I know 18 years, but probably it's longer than that, of not having an override. What has the town given up? I mean, we have a town where Wheaton College is the center part of our town. And you would think that this town would be primed for having an appropriate educational system, all right, in addition to having all the other systems. So every time you see that the fire department is cutting, they can't do twice as many ambulances, and the police department is closing on the weekend. That's ridiculous. We need to be able to fund those things appropriately. And have those conversations thrown in everybody's face every year, they just get blind to it. And so whether or not it's not, we're doing this on FinCom, watch it. There's got to be a rodeo, walking around to these communities and having a conversation conversation describing why they're doing that, what the impact is if we don't do it, and create what we want to live in. The community, let's describe where we're going to. It may not be happening today, but it's a goal. But we have to define that. Without defining it, we're living in the past. And everybody says, well, we did it before, we don't need it again, and let's not raise any rents. I think there needs to be an override. If you're telling me now whether I'd vote for one, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what's included and what's not included. My fear is we're going to end up doing something probably by the next town meeting that probably is going to take a year to really evaluate. And whatever we do now, I would encourage taking that process of taking these departments and really understanding what's needed. And it's not always need and wants, there's something in the middle. What level is this community supposed to live at? I mean, I know I've come in from a community that education, and for my family, education has been paramount. And I want to be able to live in a community that respects that within its means. And so without taking advantage of, not funding the police and not funding the fire department, that argument just wrongs me and people the wrong way, because every time they hear it, that's what they're going to do first, and that's just not practical.
Well, that's excellent. You actually covered everything that I really would like to have covered with you, and I really appreciate your transparency and your views and the direction that you would like to see not only our town go into, but our local government as well. So if the viewers would like to learn more about you, how can they go about doing so? Sure.
My website is Oren Sigal, spelling, for the number Norton.com. It's a website, and it'll direct you to some other information that's out there on other websites, and I encourage you to take a look at them.
And it includes other videos that you have conducted as well, correct?
Yes, it has. I have a video, and it also has the Norton Voters Guide. There's a link to that as well, which I encourage people to take a look at. And I'd be happy to respond to any specific questions people have. There's a way of contacting me on my website. And I would encourage your support. Thank you.
Well, thank you so very much. And again, we encourage you to come out and vote this Saturday at the Norton Middle School from 8 to 5 on April 27th. So thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video and meet with us. And I look forward to seeing what you have to offer for the town.
Thank you.
Thank you.